Ever wondered what happens when they try to remake your favorite childhood show? Today, we'll delve into Netflix's take on Avatar: The Last Airbender. Is it a nostalgic dream or a remake disaster? Hollywood's all about remakes lately, but is it creativity or just running out of ideas? Let's break it down and see if the new Avatar soars or crashes. Hit subscribe, buckle up, and let's dive into the remake madness. So let's break it down further. The Netflix live-action remake of Avatar: The Last Airbender seems to be less about creating something fresh and more about capitalizing on our fondness for the good old days. It's like the entertainment industry is playing in our desire to relive our childhood forever. Think of it this way. There's an article I read that said pop culture is feeding into this need for us to stay forever young in our minds. And when it comes to remakes, especially this one based on the Nickelodeon animated series, it feels like a combo of two things. First, there's this craving for the familiar, a kind of cheap nostalgia that pulls us back to what we loved when we were younger. Second, there's this trend of turning animated classics into live-action versions, and not always for the better. The Last Airbender redo, unfortunately, falls into this mix. It seems to prioritize that easy route of trading in our nostalgic feelings rather than bringing something new and captivating to the table. In simple terms, it's less about creativity and more about tapping to what we already love, and that might not always result in the best viewing experience. Live-action versions of animated films often seem doomed from the start, even if remakes in general are not always a terrible or unjust idea. The tension that arises from replicating drawings in real time is clear right away. Characters and animation can change visually in a variety of ways depending on what the scene calls for. Since there are two different sorts of expression at play, the same situations or character design decisions won't always work in the same way, so the animation must be adapted rather than simply lifted. Let's dig deeper into why the new Airbender on Netflix might not be hitting the mark. It's as if Netflix is relying heavily on our memories of the original show, trying to trigger that nostalgia but missing the essence that made it special. The decision to shift from the vibrant and expressive visuals of the animated series to a more serious tone seems to have sacrificed the unique charm that fans loved. Now the show aims to highlight the grittiness of the war story, but here's the catch. Even with all the cool special effects, the direction of the show is a bit dull. The action scenes are confusing, the conversations are kind of boring against strange backgrounds, and the energy in the acting isn't as lively. It's like they spent a lot of money, but the show is missing the fun and unique style the original had. So, Avatar: The Last Airbender had a whopping $120 million budget, on par with other flashy CGI shows like Percy Jackson and The Mandalorian. It looks way better than Shyamalan's attempt, and the action scenes, especially one with Kyoshi, a famous avatar, are intense and exciting. But here's the catch. It runs into a common issue with live-action remakes of animated stuff. No matter how much money you throw at it, live action can't quite capture the same creativity and freedom as animation. The animated Avatar had these amazing fight scenes that were a blend of motion and power, and the Netflix version can't quite match up, not because of the team's fault, but because of the limitations of the medium. Ironically, even though the Netflix show aimed for a big budget, action-packed franchise, the action scenes are a bit lacking. The weakest episodes are the ones with the most fighting, the first and the last ones. It's a bit like trying to recreate the magic of animated duels in a live-action setting, and it doesn't quite hit the mark. It's not the first time Netflix has done this. They often take beloved animated shows like Cowboy Bebop in 2021 and try to make them live-action. But sometimes they end up missing the point. They use familiar stuff like similar visuals and settings, thinking it'll make us feel the same way. But it doesn't always work because they forget what made the original so special, their style and charm. People are worried that the new adaptation might be skipping the important character growth from the original series. Fans specifically pointed to a Season 1 moment when Sokka underestimating and then learning from Suki and her Kyoshi warriors, saying that it fueled his personal growth. But don't worry, character development is still a big deal in the Netflix show. Sokka is a standout in Season 1, and his interactions with Suki are heartwarming, even without the sexism angle. Instead of focusing on that flaw, the show explores other parts of Sokka's personality, like his struggle between being a warrior and his love for engineering and strategy. In the Nickelodeon series, Sokka's growth isn't just about early sexism. A big part of it revolves around feeling like he doesn't quite measure up. Being a non-bender surrounded by powerful benders dealing with what's known as imposter syndrome. The new Airbender on Netflix takes some detours from the original story, and one striking example is in the second episode, Warrior. In this episode, they replicate an animated storyline but omit Sokka, the warrior from the Water Tribe, in a way that comes off as misogynistic. It feels like the writers assumed that older viewers, the target audience, wouldn't grasp the complexities of the story, so they simplified it by avoiding challenging Sokka's beliefs. This reflects a broader issue with the show's approach, as it shies away from any moral gray areas, presenting itself as a more sophisticated version of the same material, both visually and audibly. However, the real question emerges: does this version truly justify its existence? Is it an attempt to attract a new audience? The original is already massively popular, consistently ranking high on IMDb's top 250 TV shows. Plus, it's readily available on the same streaming service. So it begs the question of why tinker with a successful formula? The new Airbender seems to lack a clear purpose, especially when the original continues to resonate with audiences. A few people have done excellent live-action remakes of popular animations. Despite being a box office failure, the 2008 movie version of the manga series Speed Racer has a strong artistic quality, with Lena and Lily Wachowski stating in interviews that they used Cubist art concepts in their approach. It carried over the anime stylings into its visual language. It grasped the concept of Speed Racer and used a powerful style to bridge the gap between the realistic and the comical, which is fatal for many animation to live-action remakes. Sometimes Netflix gets it right, like with last year's One Piece, based on the pirate manga. It embraced the original spirit and the playful style of the manga, pleasing both new and old fans. It felt genuine, unlike Airbender, which comes off as insincere. Even though remakes often get a bad rap, they don't always have to be fueled by nostalgia. Look at video games like the upcoming Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Game remakes aim for better graphics and mechanics, making the original more accessible. But what sets them apart is their fresh storytelling and surprising twists, unlike the dull imitation of live-action Airbender. The characters in these games challenge the idea of just redoing the same story. They ask, why stick to the old path when you can explore something new and exciting? Let's talk about some great moments in the new season, especially the smaller, personal interactions between characters. One standout is the relationship between Zuko, the exiled firebender prince, and his uncle Iroh. This dynamic was a highlight in the original series, and on Netflix, it starts emotionally powerful. Dallas James Liu, who plays Zuko, brings depth to the conflicted prince. Take the 6th episode Masks, for example. It mixes a big action scene with quieter moments that delve into Zuko's backstory and his connection with Aang. Netflix put a lot of money into the action, but it's the character conversations that steal the show, making the story more thrilling than just flashy bending displays. Let's talk about Aang in the Netflix version. He feels a bit dull compared to the other characters. Weirdly, in the whole season, he doesn't even try to learn water bending, which is different from the Nickelodeon version. Now, the Netflix season structure is kind of interesting. They packed 20 Nickelodeon episodes into just 8 Netflix ones because shorter seasons are a thing now. But here's a catch. Even though the Netflix episodes are longer, the total time you spend watching is pretty much the same. It's a bit of a change, but not necessarily much to watch. Both live-action remakes and remakes of animation have a place, but only if they have a clear purpose in mind for the work rather than just remaking fan favorites. The reason the current adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender fails as a standalone show is not only because of its awkward, stiff visual appropriation of cartoon artistry, but also because it refuses to let go of the past. In other words, it's a show that has decidedly failed to grow. We dove into Netflix's Avatar remake, analyzed Hollywood's remake trend, and answered if the new Avatar is a hit or miss. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell for more such videos. Keep bending, and see you in the next one.